What are y'all thoughts about the Manosphere and its impact?
Kudos to the portion that's all about building and uplifting. I don't give kudos to the part where it's always bashing women.
It's funny when people go, don't listen to that person, it's generally because they rather have you listening to them.
Obama kind of came under heat from the Manosphere, I think last year during the election, because they felt like he was trying to scold them around the time that they were trying to get the push for Kamala.
What made the Manosphere so impactful over the last 5 years, men are saying people are hearing for the first time.
Speaking of people I have smoke for, you know what I'm saying? This is a perfect segue, right? It's fucking Manosphere, okay? So I'm watching Anton Daniels, okay? Kudos to him. I guess shout out to him, whatever he does on the socials, okay? So I guess apparently Obama was talking to his wife and his brother-in-law on their podcast. How riveting is that? And they were talking about the Manosphere. It came up. Now, mind you, Obama kind of came under heat from the Manosphere, I think last year during the election, because they felt like he was trying to scold them around the time that they were trying to get the push for Kamala, right? So the Manosphere, some of them, including Anton Daniels, had some smoke with Obama there. So when he spoke about the Manosphere, I think his ears were perked up and to see what Obama would say. And I think the long and short of it was that Obama recognized that there is a voice out there. There are people talking, that young people are listening to some of these people, podcasters, ourselves included, I guess, and they're having an impact. And I think maybe for Anton, this was the first time that someone at Obama's level was actually acknowledging that, yes, podcasters and people who are talking about these things are influencing people, right? Because he was concerned about the young men that would meet his daughter. So I just thought, like, for us as the pod, I don't think we really talked a lot about the Manosphere. So I thought it was a really great time for us to talk about it. And I guess it depends, though, because I feel like Devin might be our resident Manosphere expert, right? But in general, though, like, just to kind of blanket it, I think the Manosphere is a term that people use for a lot of the podcasters and influencers and voices who represent, I guess, the interest of men, masculinity, particularly in this modern dating environment, right? So think Kevin Samuels, think Fresh and Fit. Now, mind you, as I'm mentioning these people, Anton Daniels, I guess, they're not all the same. There's different subsections within these different groups who have a different ideology, but by and large, just like it says, Manosphere is the sphere of conversation that's being had about men, how men should move, how men should date, how men should get themselves together, how men should improve. And so therefore, just to kind of simplify it, the Manosphere, right? So what are your thoughts in terms of the Manosphere as a whole, both its impact? Because I think that was one of the things that he was most excited about, was the fact that does the Manosphere have an impact? Is it influencing how men are showing up and how they're having relationships with women? And I mean, I guess by extension, by large, you know, podcasts and so on and so forth. So what are your thoughts about the Manosphere and its impact? And the role that we play in it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this last election is, you know, they're calling it like the Manosphere election, or the podcast election, because you know, most of the Democrats' platform, and not even just this election, last couple of election cycles, it's largely catered to women, and not even just on the political side, on the social side, between Me Too movement, you know, various other movements. You know, you can only tell men, I'm strong and independent, I don't need you, for so long. And at some point, they're going to say, okay, cool. And I think that's where that was a big origin of the Manosphere. And as Nick said, there's a lot of different pieces of it. It's not just a one monolithic block. You've got Rollo Tomasi, you got over in the white Manosphere. They've got their own things going on. Whatever podcast. You've got the MGTOW guys, men going their own way. You got Passport Bros. You got the kind of the black sector doing their thing. So it's a whole collective school of thought. But I think what happens is you found they got the higher profile guys like the Andrew Tates, maybe Kevin Samuels, and people kind of gravitate toward that and then say, oh, well, that's all the source of all our problems. And for guys who really kind of been in the space and really just kind of been around men, a lot of the stuff that you hear in these Manosphere spaces is shit you'll hear in the barbershop. For a lot of men, none of this stuff is new. The issue is being heard for the first time, primarily by women. And I think a bigger problem that the Manosphere is highlighting, a lot of men don't really tell y'all what they really think. They're either scared or they're going to either get canceled, or that's the other thing, cancel culture. That's men are sick of that shit. You know, losing out on access to vagina. That's another reason why men don't tell you guys the truth. So one of the big things that made the Manosphere so impactful over the last 5 years, men are saying shit people are hearing for the first time, and it's making people sick. And it just manifested itself in the 2024 election. They're like, you know what? Fuck you. We're not going to do it. They tried to shame men into voting for a particular candidate, or what did they say? Women's rights or men's rights too. Like, no, man, give us something too. Between the college education numbers, just equality, and we want all of this. We want all these things from men. The men are just like, okay, well, shit, what are we getting out of the deal? And that's got a lot of people sick. People don't like that. The system doesn't like it because women are big consumers. They spend a lot of money. I don't think women, especially single women, are easier to gaslight with, propaganda, advertising, the government. So the manosphere just throws a wrench in all of that shit. So yeah, I think it's hilarious. I'm here for it. I love it.
I thought the S&M's going to jump in, but I think that, we're living in a global society, and we live in a place where there's so many males that don't have figures, or don't know how their manhood should be constructed or defined. It was natural that this would happen. I think we also live in an age where there's a lot of social engineering going on. So who you're listening to is just as important as whether or not you're listening, or that you have somebody to listen to. And so if we're talking about the people's choice of who they listen to and whether or not it creates these echo chambers, yeah, it does happen. But I still think that the discourse is necessary for any sort of society or culture. If Black people are going to have a culture, we got to come up with some norms. So we have to have some conversations. So somebody somewhere has to say something and express an idea that then we can bounce around each other and figure out how we feel about it. I don't think there's anything bad about that. I think that really, honestly, it's funny to me because I feel like the reason he's making this point, it's funny when people go, don't listen to that person, is generally because they rather have you listening to them. And I think the better approach is to say, hey, as you're listening, here's some information that you should always filter it through. Here's some facts. Here's some principles or whatever. That, not don't listen to that person, because it's myopic and it's problematic. It makes me wonder what it is you don't want me to hear. I think people should be open to all sorts of ideas. So yes, there's this gender war that's happening, and yes, there's all these groups that Devin was talking about, that the splintering of certain demographics into these other little segments and groups, their own mindsets. But none of that's a problem unless we forget how to talk to each other. It's only a problem if we lose the ability to come back from whatever group we've been kicking it with and go talk to somebody who's not in the same group and say, listen, here's the stuff I heard or what I found out. What do you think about that? How does that match up or not match up with whatever you heard? And then we source it out. We do it in classrooms all the time. As a teacher, I get groups and I teach. That group learns one thing and the other group learns something different. And then I mix it back together so that every group has one person who's an expert on all these things. It's not a big deal. Who you're listening to, though, is a big deal. And I can't tell you how to pick who to listen to. I will say a wise old man once told me, if you know what's right, then you'll know who's right. I don't know if that helps. Go ahead. I don't know who's up.
So, I want to say this. First, I give kudos to certain portions of the manosphere. I give kudos to the portion that's all about building and uplifting, i.e. financial literacy, that type of stuff, career-oriented, that type of stuff. I give kudos to that part of the manosphere because that seems like a village to me. But you know what I don't give kudos to? I don't give kudos to the part where it's always bashing women, right? You say you don't have a voice, or men in this particular space say that they're gathering just to talk about women, right? Or at least to me, that's what it seems like. They're gathering just to talk about women. And instead of talking about how to build with women, or they're only talking about, they're only bashing women. And that to me is a problem because that's not empowerment. That's escapism. You're not being silenced. You're actually just being challenged. And for some men, as we like to throw out the accountability word, accountability feels like disrespect. So now you're being challenged. You're being challenged to evolve to a certain point because women have rights now. Back in the day, we didn't have so many rights. And I'm going to differentiate between Black and white because there's always differentiate between along the race lines and whatnot. And so since we're specifically talking about the manosphere, the Black manosphere, as I like to call it, because I think the conversation was about how more Black men are joining the manosphere. And I actually think it's because they feel like they're take in life is being silenced right now. I think they feel like, because we're always talking about, as Devin pointed out, about how there seems to be a focus in the Democratic Party, as an example, on women. And I think there's a threat there. There's a need. There's some type of threat where, oh no, the women are taking over. And so therefore they're co-signing and joining the manosphere, not for the purpose of building themselves to get to a certain point, but for the purpose of bashing women and having that echo chamber to say, oh, the women think they're all that. Let's try to put them back in a box. Let's punch down, because they can't punch up. They can't punch to the side. So they want to punch down. And that's where a portion of the manosphere come from. And I say this because, to me, and I'm not part of the manosphere. I don't even listen to any of those people in the manosphere. So I'm an outsider. So you guys can correct me. Like I said, the part that I did enjoy was when they talked about financial literacy, when they talked about how you can be successful in your career and so forth. Even when they're talking about, hey, wait till you got the money, then the honey will come, or whatever the case may be. Even that's fine. But to me, the manosphere, for the most part, feel like it's all about promoting these so-called hyper-masculine ideals, but at the same time, demonizing women and emotional vulnerability. So that's why we just talked about emotional vulnerability. And it's like, well, what other alternatives are being offered? If we're going to just demonize women, and we're already somewhat demonizing emotional vulnerability, then what alternatives is the manosphere offering? Is it offering the regulation of self-emotions? Is it offering how to build with women? Or is it telling them that you need to put the women back in the kitchen barefoot pregnant and shit like that? Now, once again, like I said, from what I've seen, there seems to be a lot of negativity, and people are like, oh, relationships are going to hell. Well, shit, look who you're listening to. Look who you're listening to. That's why relationships are going to hell, coupled with what's already going on the women's side as well. I feel like the manosphere was basically a failure on men and women, right? We lack the ability to talk to each other, to build to each other, to listen with each other. And because we lack that ability, we end up having this rise of the manosphere. So I think that if it's really about male empowerment, or is it, but kind of comes off about reinforcing patriarchy. That's why we already have this whole, oh, let's get rid of all the women rights. And that's funny because a lot of times, well, that's what it seems like with, and not you guys, but in general, that's what it seems like. It's like, let's roll back some women's rights. All I'm going to say this is that ultimately the manosphere, one of the main talking points that I found, besides it seems to be all about bashing women, is that they're like, oh, the feminists ruin women, feminists this, feminists that. But feminist was never about being anti-men. It was about anti-oppression. It was about, hey, can we get some rights? Can we do things? Can we not be considered property? Can we have choices? And that seems to be an issue in the manosphere, about giving women the right to have choices. And because we now have choices, it feels like for some reason, how can I put it nicely? You no longer feel like you have the power that you had previously, as women continue to gain choices, and hence why there seems to be a rollback. But once again, like I said, I'm not in the manosphere. I barely listen to that shit because I don't understand why are men more comfortable listening to influencers like Andrew Tate. And I give Kevin Samuels props, because at one point he actually was talking to the men in regards to what they could do. And even when he talked to the women, the women, first of all, was calling in for the purpose of getting critiqued by him. And so he still was providing them with valuable advice. And so for that, I give him props. He actually tried to be even-sided as much as possible. And he started off building Black men in the first place. So that's just, like I said, I'm not really involved in that because fuck the manosphere.
Well, for somebody who's not really,
I had to do
listen to it
research.
very much, who don't, whatever, you sure had a lot to say.
Because I had to do research.
Ma'am,
That was a lot. I got
I
a
think
lot
you might
to
have
unpack.
I think you might have reached your word count for this, for someone who doesn't listen to the manosphere. Either you're lying, right? You even gave Kevin Samuels some kudos. He did a lot of research this yesterday. Kudos to you. But it's okay, right? And this is what's is so awesome. And I'm pointing this out on purpose, because there's a lot of women who don't know shit about the manosphere who got a lot to say about it, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because people draw conclusions about an entire thing even though it might just be some radicals or wings of those things. Like, you can't control every human being. Every human being who might be attached to the fraternity that I'm a member of, the sorority that you're a member of, right? They're not all going to represent us. Matter of fact, a couple of episodes ago, there were people who decried our organizations. Does that mean they represent? No. But unfortunately, right, those people do exist, and we only pay attention to them because we pay attention to the drama. And that's partly on us, right? That's one. Number two, this idea of bashing women is funny to me because just to have a critique or to try to hold someone accountable in any type of way seems like bashing to y'all a lot of times. Right, a lot of times. And we joke about the emotional ears. By the way, go ahead and cop your shirt right now. But the reason why the communication is tough between men and women is because sometimes y'all don't listen. There's a conversation being had about whether or not y'all really care about us to a certain extent, like whether or not men are cared for in society as a whole, let alone like their mental health, their emotional well-being, right? And then whether or not women even care either, right? Because if a person cares, you would think they'd be open to hearing your grievances, your concerns, right? And want to do their part to improve on the relationship. But if every time a man is making a statement that might seem negative towards a woman, it feels like bashing, that's a problem. Are there men who bash women? Absolutely. Some of those men either pander or bash because they know there's money in it. Fools on us, or shame on us for that. But the truth is, when we're having genuine conversations, it doesn't matter what the topic is. If there's something that's negative towards women, it can't just be, I give you that. That's what's up. I accept that, right? No. So yes, if men are going to have conversations amongst men, guess what? Women are going to show up. You know why? Because we do want to be with y'all. Right? I think a lot of times on this show, I listen to the hurt. So I listen past the hurt. So the guys who are out here bitching and moaning, what I hear is a nigga who secretly down deep wants to be with someone, wants to be better than what he is, but he just doesn't have the tools. And some of these charlatans and grifters on the websites will go out there and take their money. Let me teach you how to pick up a girl. I saw a video of a guy paying $3,000 to learn how to pick up women. It's about the jacket that you wore. Right. So there's grifters in the space, right? And they tend to then identify it. But by and large, there are organizations, there are people who are trying to, yes, help men. You know why? Because we've let them down, right? It's not the present generation. The older generation has let down the younger generation, right? We stopped giving them people to listen to. So guess what? They got to go elsewhere to get the information. So we talked about single mothers. If they were raised in a single mother home and did not have a man in the home, then what is going to happen when there's these men presenting themselves as alpha males that you should follow me to have what I have so you can be like me? They're going to follow them, right? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? There's consequences, right? Some of those same men are reacting emotionally. This idea of, I've never in my life heard of men just being, I'm going to hold my dick because it's just crazy out here. You know what I'm saying? Shit that women do in terms of being celibate. All of a sudden there's incels. The fuck is that? If that ain't the most, never mind. But the point that I'm making is that we have let down these young men because as we get married, as we go on to our lives, we're not reinvesting into the young people and providing them maybe enough males, men to be around them to help teach them and grow. How many dudes are out here being coaches or volunteering their times? I mean, many of us might just barely be getting by and may not have the bandwidth because we got to take care of our families first. But those households that don't have men, guess what? You know what I'm saying? They're going to fend for themselves to a certain extent. So those young men, then now you can scale up masculinity. Now you can have the Andrew Tates who can speak well and how he gets women, how he commands himself. He got a couple of dollars. So yes, these guys are looking up to these other guys because they're more attainable. They can't be LeBron James, but they can be Ace Metaphor. You know what I'm saying? Or they can try to figure out. So I'm just saying, like, I get that we want to blame podcasters all the time. But I think if we really look at it, we got to blame us. And when I say us as the older generation too, because we as older people do some fuck shit towards the younger people, right? Because I remember when I was younger, how it felt when a young older brother was trying to like put me up on game, but he looked past me. He act like he was never as young as I was. So none of us as young, rebellious people are going to listen to somebody who's judging us. Get the fuck out of here, right? We don't meet people where they are. Right. So we talk down to them and expect them to follow us. Right. And I wasn't with that shit. I know a lot of young men aren't. So when I talk to young men, I'm not judging them for what? You know what I'm saying? Like, because if I'm trying to reach them, I don't think judgment is the way to go. And that's why I fucking hate some of these Manosphere niggas, because truthfully, some of them low key are judging y'all and y'all fall for it. You know what I'm saying? Some of them, I mean, pause right there because there's more to this Manosphere shit, but there's a lot of toxic shit that I do hear in the Manosphere. That's some bullshit. Am I going to blame that on the whole? No. I'd call out the individuals and say, no, that nigga who said that, that's some fucked up shit. Because different people are allowed to have a different opinion, even if they agree generally in regards to the needs that men have in terms of improvement. But there's some charlatans out there who are, I think, doing our community a disservice. right? And so, Jay, you said, oh, everybody should be able to. You're right. Everybody should be able to, but we have to do better about who the fuck we listen to. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can't discern the mother. Y'all wouldn't go to a dentist if their teeth was fucked up. So y'all listening to a woman who's never been, because she's whatever, man. So my point is that I think we got to be the ones, the consumers of content, number one, have to be held accountable and be responsible for what they choose to listen to, right? Number one. And I also think big picture, we as older men, we got to put the younger men more on game. And I think that's one of the reasons why we started a podcast, because yeah, we're going to talk our talk and be toxic or whatever. But at the heart of it, it's like, there's some truth to what the fuck we want to talk about. Like, it's not about completely bashing women. That's why if you guys ever notice, SNL will say, well, I'm not talking about the guys here. Maybe she's being polite and low key is talking about us, right? But by and large, yes, we can kind of hit those toxic notes. But the truth of the matter is, right, that some of that shit is bullshit and problematic, right? It's not, I don't think the manosphere as a whole. And I think a lot of times when women hear that, they only focus on the one or two parts they don't like, not thinking that, yo, unfortunately, this does serve a purpose. There are some some men whose lives have probably been improved, right? Because somebody told them that they needed to make more money to be able to be the type of guy that they thought they could be, right? Because there's some delusional niggas out here who thought they could just be whatever and get whatever. So maybe some guys need to hear that and maybe impacted them, right? But I think there's a lot of house cleaning that needs to happen in the manosphere in terms of other men who are in that space or in the podcasting space to stand up and say, not some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And I think if more people do that, then maybe you give more voices or more audience a chance to listen to voices that sometimes can make sense, as opposed to just selling y'all some bullshit that's really undermining y'all. Y'all don't even fucking know it.
Yeah, and a lot of the manosphere space, the more ideas, the more clash of ideas, the better. I'm a big believer. Iron sharpens iron. But from the people from the outside looking in, everything that they don't like is considered bashing, and a lot of the presumption is that women are your sugar, spice, and everything nice. It's the halo effect. And there is a lot of talk about, interacting with women, how to get the kind of results you want with women. There's a lot of self-improvement content. Chase the bag and before you chase women, how to be the best version of yourself, get your money up, eat right, exercise, all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that women talk about they're considered bashing in the manosphere space on the white side and the black side is women can be shitty people, and you need to look out for that kind of stuff. And it's okay to point it out. Anytime that there's any kind of criticism, I don't care if it's about weight or single mothers or dating them or what kind of woman you want for your life. Like, oh, you're bashing women. Like, no, I'm just pointing out she's a shitty person. And that's okay. That's not bashing. That's an objective observation. But if you can say, and this is what one of the things that we've talked about before, like you can say pretty much anything you want to about a man in public space. Doesn't matter how agree he's a misogynist, he's just an awful human being. You can pretty much say anything you want about
He's
men in
homosexual.
public. Yeah, he's homosexual.
Sassy.
Yeah, sassy. Do those inverses towards women in public and watch how quickly you get canceled. There's no analog to the type of public discourse latitude that women have had, at least for the last 40 or 50 years. There isn't. I would love to see it, but it doesn't exist. So that's, the manosphere is a reaction to something. It's not a, hey, well, let's all get together and hate women and let's put it out all on the internet. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's great. That's not how it happened. It's a reaction to something.
So I'm going to answer your rhetorical question and give you an example because, of course, that's what I do. Your rhetorical question about give you an example of when women are dragged every single time a woman moves on in a relationship that's public, she get dragged and being called for the streets. That's an example. Now, that brings us to a subset of the manosphere, the passport bros.
No, because I want to say this. My biggest problem with the manosphere is that y'all niggas be selling wolf tickets, right? Like, not every dude is going to be the alpha dude who's going to make all this money. I get the whole idea of go out there and get the bag. For whom it applies, yes, please apply it. But I think what the problem I have is that it sells the same fucking delusion that everybody can do everything all the fucking time. No, you can't. Right? You can't. I'm sorry. If you have not had a track record of doing certain things, maybe your lot in life is just being a good father and a good husband, my nigga. This idea that everybody got to go out there. What triggered it was when Devin was talking about, yo, go out there and get the bag before you get the girl. That is such a fucking cookie cutter bullshit way to look at life to a certain extent, because some of us actually found the girl while we were on the way to getting the bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, this mindset that pushes men to want to maybe settle down later in life because there's this formula they have to follow that's going to lead to happiness, right? The fuck out of here. That's not necessarily a formula for everybody. And I hate that they position men to feel like you're less than a man if you don't reach these heights or if you don't do these things. Right? They start to redefine what manhood is or masculinity is and put more on it. Nah, bruh, handle your responsibilities, right? Be able to regulate your emotion on some level, right? Have some level of logic in your decision making. Try to lead yourself, if not a household. Like, it could be real simple, but they start adding things like, oh, in order to be the man, you got to have a fucking bag because you want that dime piece. This is so fucking ridiculously cookie cutter. It's like high school. You got to be the quarterback to get the fucking cheerleader and shit. That's just dumb. You replace quarterback with the hot nigga, lit nigga. You replace the cheerleader with the IG baddie. That's the shit that we talk about, right? The other thing that gets me, though, too, is that this whole conversation around single mothers, right? Because Anton says this shit a lot, too. Hey, you are simp if you get with a woman who is a single mom. What? Does that not take into account the guy on any level? Oh, he's an ace boom cool. He's a top tier nigga, huh? The guy. I can see if you're saying a guy who moves a certain type of way, maybe he has better options. Cool. But we're not talking about all guys, are we? How about the guy who's a single father, too? He got a couple of baby moms. You mean to tell me he can't, build a family with a woman who has a child? Maybe she's smart. They put their pennies, their dollars together and build that shit, that blanket type of statement like all men who do these things that's fucking ridiculous. Some of y'all, the baddest that you'll ever get is going to be a single mom. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? It just supposes that all niggas are alpha top tier niggas. If that's the case, there would be no such thing as top tier niggas. Right? Not everybody can be that, and that's okay. If you came from a lineage where your daddy wasn't there, then maybe the best thing that you can do is be there for your fucking kids. You know what I'm saying? Retire. Play with your grandkids. You ain't make $1 million, but maybe you change the course of your legacy and lineage by just being fucking there. The idea that niggas got to be everything for everybody. That's the thing that I really push back on S&M, because I think just like women who have these unrealistic ideas of what's out there for them, and then they delay what should be for them in the now because of some bullshit that somebody sold them, and they wake up like, what happened to my life? That's why some of these niggas are fucking miserable. They spend a lot of their times listening to other people. My guy, you were probably always good enough. You dig what I'm saying? Before, it was women telling you that you're not good enough. Now it's dudes low-key on the sly telling you that you're not good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to tell you, Jay made his address, my brothers, you are good enough, right? Where you are. If you want to be better than when you are, then move forward in that way. But decide it for yourself, not because some nigga on a fucking podcast got you feeling less than. What's that yada nigga? Oh, niggas got to take care of their families 100%. My wife never touches it. Nigga, shut your ass up. There's a lot of these niggas in their spaces talking all this shit, and they don't give a fuck about men for real, for real. All they're doing is trying to make money off of men and poke their chest out about how they didn't do a thing. Yes, I didn't marry a single mom. My wife didn't have kids. But guess what? If I wasn't married and the woman was fired, I would. I'm not going to come on here and poke out how much better I am than niggas just because that wasn't my circumstance. That's what these niggas are doing, dog. You know what I'm saying? And the last thing is, when we was having that conversation about having the fathers at home, my dad was there, bro. I am not the type of nigga who feel like because I had an experience, you got to have the experience. I don't necessarily judge and isolate people just because they had a different experience. That's why I would never do that. You get what I'm saying? That's what a lot of these niggas do. And Cheyenne Bryant. You know what I'm saying? And I just got to call that shit out. Wake the fuck up. These niggas are playing in your face, right? And not giving you nothing back of real value because they don't know you. You heard what I'm saying? I just had to say that, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Any other final thoughts, or did Nick ring the bell on that one?
Motherfuckers.
Whoever you listen to, don't, and especially whether it's Cheyenne Bryant, her in particular, or any podcast people, never listen to people who don't have the shit they're talking about. Like, oh, I'm going to tell you how to get in this relationship, but you don't have a relationship. Or I'm going to tell you how to get a family. You don't have one. So that's just a good rule of thumb. Whoever you're listening to, make sure they have the shit they're telling you how to get. I'm going to land on that.
All right,
You know what?
then. Go ahead,
Check
Jay.
their paperwork too. Check their paperwork, because some people reinvent themselves 5-6 times.
That's a fact.
They'll be an expert on ABC one day, expert on 1, 2, 3 the next day, and they're just an expert on whatever's trending. So you know what I'm saying? Check their paperwork. See what they've been doing for a while before you go off and change your whole life. You better off listening to ChatGPT, and even the owner of that said that you should check it. So